Welcome. We're so happy to have you join us for our product launch of the latest platform in our Vecna Robotics fleet. My name is Amanda Beyer, Director of Marketing Communications at Vecna Robotics.
And I'm David Clear, Chief Revenue Officer here at Vecna Robotics.
In just a few moments, we'll head into our showroom here at Waverly Oaks in Waltham, Massachusetts, where we'll be joined by Daniel Theobald, founder and CEO of Vecna Robotics, and John Hayes, VP of Sales.
So John and Daniel will be introducing the first unit in our Silverback series, our new autonomous counterbalanced fork truck. They're going to walk you through all of the various specs and performance capabilities and all of the supporting details around that.
Stick around for a live Q&A after the event, where David and I will be available to answer any questions that you have around pricing, delivery dates, and product capabilities. Put your questions in the chat box, and we'll see you in the showroom.
Hello, I'm John Hayes, Vice President of Sales of Vecna Robotics.
And I'm Daniel Theobald, founder and CEO, and we're really excited to introduce you to VR-SB3000, the first in our Silverback series of counterbalanced fork trucks.
Thank you, Daniel.
As you can see, safety is the first priority in every piece of equipment that we build.
Absolutely. All our vehicles are designed to operate safely around your equipment and your most valuable asset, your people.
And as you can see, when the obstruction is moved out of the way, the vehicle automatically resumes operation. You don't have to come and reset it.
That's a great point. The other good features that we see on this vehicle, 3D scanning, very tight turn radius, and full rated capacity to 3,000 pounds at 72 inches, which allows us to not only pick from floor locations, but locations in racking and conveyor, stacking, up to a full 72-inch lift height.
But John, our vehicles before were able to pick up pallets. What's new about this?
Well, what's important about a forklift vehicle, in specific this forklift vehicle, is that many times in a facility we see pallets that are just in not very good condition. The difference between a poor pallet and a pallet that's in good condition could mean the inability for manual trucks to not be able to pick it up, much less an automated system. Our system is now capable of picking up nearly any pallet in nearly any condition.
Does that pallet need to be precisely positioned somewhere?
Absolutely not, absolutely not. The technology that we employ does not use the historic X and Y coordinate scheme, which means that forklift operators or plant personnel have to put a pallet very precisely on the floor. We don't use that technology. How exactly do we do that, Daniel?
Well, so unlike the other providers, what our system does is actually sees the pallet. It knows that there is a pallet in this area that it's supposed to pick up. It doesn't care if it's precisely positioned. It sees the pallet and then it plans a path specifically to that pallet to pick it up reliably.
Now, if you think about how that translates into a facility, operators in a typical production or distribution facility, they don't need to take time to be precise with picks and drops. They need to do their job.
And fast.
So why not have a system that's designed to operate in that specific environment, like this forklift vehicle?
And one of the great things about that is it increases your robustness of your solution incredibly. If a pallet is misplaced off by a little bit, you don't have to stop what you're doing to go and fix the AGV system.
That's absolutely correct.
It just picks it up and moves on with its work.
That's absolutely correct. Now, the application that we're talking about here, what we're showing, is one of picking empty pallets. Now, of course that has applicability, but what if you translate that into the next logical step, which might be bridging the gap of transportation with an existing tugger solution?
Yeah, that's really interesting, because what this allows us to do is extend the capabilities of our tugger solutions, because no longer does it require a human on a piece of equipment to manually load and unload that tugger. This gives us the opportunity to really focus on using the people where the people provide the most value, and let's let the robots do the boring stuff.
That's correct. We've bridged that gap. We now have a solution that automatically loads, automatically transports, and automatically unloads in a package that's controlled at a highest level by our software package.
Yeah, Pivotal is our orchestration engine. What Pivotal allows us to do is to coordinate the activities of the robots, the forked vehicles, the tuggers, the center riders, in a way where we're addressing the work that needs to get done and making sure that the right resource is in the right place at the right time. But it doesn't stop with just our vehicles.
No, it doesn't. As a matter of fact, we call it an orchestration engine because it doesn't just work with our equipment. It actually sees the entire workflow in a facility. And so we can take historical data, we can learn. We take that learning and we can apply it to other portions of the facility. Where do you need labor today? Where do you historically need labor? How many people do you need to perform an operation? When do you need them there? Pivotal can see that operation and can control that entire operation.
Yeah, again, it's about making sure we have the right resource in the right place at the right time.
The application here is one of what we call block stacking, and it's really the most dense storage that you can do in a facility. This is really the purview of forklift vehicles in general, and it provides very dense storage, and it provides the ability to utilize more space than any other storage method. And now that we can do that with our new forklift vehicle, it really opens up a lot of storage applications for us. But what's really important is when we take this back to Pivotal, and that's important because how do we know if we pick the right pallet?
That's true. So we have a very cutting-edge barcode scanning solution. This barcode scanning solution is able to find a small barcode anywhere on the face of that pallet, communicate with the WMS, determine where that specific pallet needs to go, and take it there completely autonomously.
We also have more commonplace interfaces like PLCs, I/O, things like door control, fire systems, the things that are part and parcel to operation.
Conveyor belts.
Conveyor belts, another great application. We see applications all the time of product coming in and off of conveyor belts that require a handshake of some sort, that a sensor will tell us that something is there to pick up. We would scan it, we would talk to the WMS or WCS, and we would understand where to take it.
Yeah, and this really helps to streamline the operations from beginning to end. So you get to the point now where you can start to envision full dock-to-dock automation where the robots are contributing, human workers are dialed into that because these are fully collaborative systems. The orchestration engine is able to not just control where the robots are going, but really help facilitate planning of where the other manual equipment is providing value and the human workers.
You know, what's important is that it's not just about individual pieces of equipment. It's not about that any longer. Even though this is a new product for us, it's about the extension of automation throughout the facility and understanding workflows. So it's about...
It's the system.
It's the system.
So we're really excited about this product launch. We hope you'll think about ways that you can put this equipment to work in your facility. And now we'll turn you back over to David and Amanda.
Great, thank you, Daniel. And there you have it, our Silverback series of Counterbalanced fork trucks. Thanks for sticking with us. And if you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll do our best to address as many as we can. We'll give you some time to get those questions going. And in the meantime, we'll give you some more information. So David, talk to me about this special offer you mentioned.
Yes, so as a special introductory offer, we're offering the 20% discount below list price for any orders that we receive before the end of February next year. So we're hoping that that can help us move with some of the people who are joining us today.
Excellent. 20% is a pretty great deal. How do you price out an order?
Well, there's a variety of factors that come into play. So we need to look at things like the size of the fleet, the size of the operation, the workflows that we need to address. So our sales and solutions team can work through those details very quickly once we start digging into some of the details with our customer base.
Great, and let's talk about delivery schedule. If someone were to place an order next week, let's say, when could they expect to be up and running?
Yeah, we have a number of orders actually already received from some people that we've been working with. So we're currently looking at delivery for new orders, probably late winter, early spring next year at this point.
Yeah, we've got a huge volume of trucks slated to go out already. So great job to the team. I know a number of you guys are listening, so kudos to you. You mentioned barcode scanners and auto charge. I'd like to dig into that a little bit. But before we do, can you give us a recap on the specs?
Sure, yeah, just as a reminder, so the vehicle has a lift height of 72 inches and a capacity of 3,000 pounds, which is higher weight than any of the other autonomous platforms in the space. We've got a top speed of 2 meters a second or 4.5 miles an hour, and then the unit has a turning radius of 213 centimeters or 84 inches. So it's designed to operate really in just about every environment.
Right. And as we saw, the ability to interact with carts, conveyors, wrappers, so a number of other handoffs. And what about battery life? Can you talk to me about auto charge?
Sure. So the battery life, the standard battery time on an individual unit is about 8 hours operating full time. We have auto charging capabilities, which can remove the need for for taking units out of action for extended periods of time. So the auto charging units we have deployed in a number of customer sites, which will operate also within the operation. So you have opportunistic charging and get to often effectively 24-hour runtime, or when the units need a charge themselves, they will identify that and go to a charger if it's not directly within the actual workflow.
Awesome. Yeah, and this is available for all of our trucks, right?
It is indeed, yes. Was successfully deployed in a number of sites to date and has proven very valuable.
Okay, great. So let's head over to the chat and see what we've got for questions coming in. I see a number of people have written in, so thank you for that. Let's see here. So we'll start with Travis from Georgia. Since this vehicle does not require precise placement, is the blue tape on the floor still required? Great question, Travis.
It's not. No, the blue tape actually we've used in the past has really been just to identify pallet drop-off locations for manual staff. It's not something we've ever actually needed for our units in terms of pallet pickup. So we certainly wouldn't need that moving forward. Again, we will work with operations teams to identify what the most efficient way to utilize these fleet of robots.
Great, thanks, David. Let's move on to the question from Mike in California. He asks, did you build it from the ground up or is it an OEM design? Great question, Mike.
So we have partnered with, Vecna Robotics have partnered with Unicarriers Americas, and we have been leveraging their base platforms and then integrating our system onto those units. So this is a further extension of that of that work. So the base unit, as I say, retains all the capabilities and equally the manual capabilities of the of that unit, and then our system integrates in it to ensure full autonomous operation.
Great, thanks, David. Let's head over to Harish. How much effort is needed to integrate the forklift into a WMS? That's a great question.
Sorry, thanks, Amanda. Yes, we have integrated with a number of warehouse management systems to date. Most of the main players off the shelf, as well as a number of homegrown systems. So if we've already integrated with your system, there's no there should be no additional work required. And in terms of starting with our customers, that's usually a limited amount of effort that our team have extensive experience with.
Wonderful. Next question from Jerica in Dayton, Ohio. If using this for a dock application, can the system do auto scanning?
Yes. So we have an optional additional scanner on the unit, which will do barcode scanning. So that can be integrated into our platform as well as integrated into the warehouse management system. That has been that's an add-on that we have been offering on our current vehicles, and will certainly be available on this platform and can allow for considerably more integrated workflows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, David. Let's head over to Sven from Germany. Welcome, Sven. He asks, how long does it take to set up the system, like in the demo? So I'm assuming this is a question about deployment.
Sure. Deployments can range from a few days to a few weeks, depending on the level of complexity. We've had systems that have gone from receipt of PO to actual operation within about 4 weeks. But yeah, we would need to work through the details of that with your operations teams.
Great. Another question here from Erez, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, in New Jersey. Thank you for your question. Asking, can the forklift pick pallets to and from trailers and containers? Question that we get asked often.
Yes, we do get asked that quite a lot. That would not be a current off-the-shelf capability. It's something that the team continues to develop. So hopefully we will be able to host another event like this in the not too distant future, where we can unveil those features. But within our systems, they are continually improving, and we are, as we make updates to those systems, we do push them out to all units that are in the field. So any improvements that we make to those platforms become available to units that are already deployed. It's something that we've continued to focus on as we see continuing development in the space. We want to make sure that the value that we offer to our customers continues to improve over a period of time. So you're certainly not buying the 2019 or the 2020 model, and then there's going to be a new feature that comes out directly afterwards. As I say, when those improvements that we make, we push out to already deployed units.
Great, thanks, David. Let's head over to Joe from Boston, a local guy. Hey, Joe, how are you? How many trucks can be connected in a fleet operation at the same time? And what dashboard solution do you offer for more remote supervision?
Sure. So we can have very large fleets. We have deployed fleets in the dozens of units to date, and all are capable of operating both together and also within mixed environments alongside manual vehicles. We have a number of dashboards then that kind of aid with management and use of the platforms. We have a kind of real-time visualization dashboard which shows where all the units are in real time, what tasks they are currently taking on, what's in the queue. We then have our Pivotal Insights dashboard, which also looks at historic performance, where units are operating, where if we're seeing any bottlenecks, what potential performance improvements that we can look to gain from the system. So we've been continuing to develop those customer-facing tools again to make sure that both ourselves and our customers are getting maximum value from those from the platforms.
Great. We've got another question from Joe in Chicago. What navigation is used to work in a 5 to 8 deep bulk storage application, and are targets required?
Targets are not required. We are capable of clearing deep lane storage areas and equally feeding into deep lane storage areas. The way our system navigates, really, there's a mix of sensors that are available on the unit at all times. So we have a mix of our 2D and 3D LiDAR. So the system is just pulling inputs from a variety of different sources, so as it can operate seamlessly within those mixed environments, both in kind of narrow areas where we're clearing those lanes and then in mixed environments. I'm certainly happy to get into a more detailed discussion and pull in other members of the team as we look at some of those potential applications that Joe might have.
Great, thanks. Let's head over to Steve, who's asking about barcodes. What type of barcodes can we scan, 2D or 3D, or both?
We are currently scanning 2D. I don't think we've had a deployment to date where we look at 3D, but I might have to take that question offline for Steve. But certainly happy to discuss that in more detail afterwards.
Okay, great. And how precisely on the pallets do the barcodes have to be placed?
Pretty broad. We have again designed that. We have leveraged a sensor that has a very wide field of view. So we've seen there can be quite a range. We've got some customers who are aiming to place barcodes kind of in the bottom right of a pallet, but we've also seen those barcodes placed pretty much everywhere on the front face. So we are pretty much entirely front face covering. Certainly, we've gone up to about 6 feet. And if we've got if there's any requirements outside of that, again, we can certainly look at those requirements in more detail.
Great, thank you. Here's a great question on human-robot interaction. How do humans react to implementation of AMRs when the AMRs can be perceived to be taking their jobs? Great question. Thank you, Michael.
Yes, surprisingly positively, interestingly enough. It's something that we've put a lot of work into over, over the years that we've been deploying. As important in terms of adoption is the change management aspect. So we work with our customers to kind of put, to make sure that there's very clear communication from very early on as to what tasks the units will be taking, how they can assist them, and kind of overall performance expectations, etc. Pulling people into things like training, naming robots, all of these various tasks we've certainly seen has helped. But the reality is, once the units start moving, the majority of staff see a clear benefit and really enjoy working alongside them. And those fears tend to be negated pretty quickly once we actually get into detailed operations.
Yeah, great. Let's go back to Jerica, who is asking about the most common applications we're seeing as a good fit for this truck.
Sure. Yes. So we certainly see a number of applications of integration with conveyors and SRS systems and wrappers and varying varying applications like that. The units have, as I mentioned earlier, 72-inch lift height capability. So we have been framing deployments predominantly with those style applications, as well as leveraging the horizontal capabilities of the base platform. So we still would see a lot of dock-to-dock transfer, long haul within our customer operations, and then being able to kind of have some of those additional capabilities in terms of both delivering to conveyor systems and pulling from conveyor systems and wrappers, etc. So this truck has certainly opened up a whole host of additional applications for us, and additional value certainly for the end users.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to circle back to some of the conversation we were having about receiving additional updates. So Travis asks, is there an additional cost to receiving those future feature updates, like unloading a trailer, or is there a fixed timeline of updates built into the purchase?
So within our overall system, we have a monitoring tool and a performance tool, as well as software updates. So any software improvements are included as part of that. If we do have to look at any hardware updates, be it additional sensors or anything along those lines, we would have to look at those in terms of a unit by unit update. But that overall system, in terms of monitoring, performance updates, software updates, that is not time bound in terms of they're all part of an individual kind of annual service as such.
Right. We're getting a couple of questions on route mapping. David, can you talk to us about route mapping, and specifically, can the routes be changed by the customer?
Yeah, so our mapping is pretty robust to requirements of that nature. We will map the entire facility. We will plot kind of preferred routes. Units will operate seamlessly along those. As we look at updates, those updates are currently made by our support team here. For the majority of instances, we do not require to send anybody on site, so it's something that can be handled ourselves. We continue to make more and more of these tools customer facing, so we would envision that in the near future, certainly simple mapping updates and route changes are things that could be handled by the customer. More complex route updates or changes to the site is something that we would continue to handle ourselves to ensure the units will continue to operate as efficiently as possible.
Great. Thank you for those questions. David, here's a question. I'm not sure if we need to send this around the team to get this from the product side, but the question is, are you using a commercial off-the-shelf barcode scanning sensor, or have you developed in-house?
I believe we're using an off-the-shelf sensor, which we have done some work with. These questions are getting into a little bit more detail than I was expecting. I would certainly be happy to have a follow-up with whoever's asking that question in more detail. Right. But we leverage as much off-the-shelf equipment as we can, which also allows us. So to go back a step, as we consider our navigation system, we've leveraged off-the-shelf sensors, which also allows us to bring in new sensors as they become available, which helps us both in terms of performance improvement, as well as cost improvement and varying options like that. So we do look to leverage as much off the shelf as possible to kind of leverage the work that's happening within the industry as a whole, and make sure that everything that we're offering is as up to date as possible.
Great, thank you. And Roger, we'll get back to you with the exact answer there. Thank you for that question.
I suspect I know who that person is, actually.
All right. So we are coming up on our half-hour mark in just a few moments. A couple of other things that we wanted to cover here is to talk a little bit about ROI. David, can you tell us a little bit about ROI on this particular unit?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, what we've seen to date in terms of our deployments is consistent ROI within about as quick as 18 months up to 25, 26 months. It does depend on the nature of the operation, the number of shifts, the size of our facility. We have a solutions team that work through all of these details in advance, and so we can offer pretty accurate details to our customers in advance of any deployment, so people have the full understanding of the anticipated ROI and performance capabilities of any units before they're deployed.
Great. One thing that I did want to cover here too is that we showed it working with a conveyor. Can you tell us how that works?
Yes. So in terms of integration with a conveyor or kind of picking and placing, it's very similar to the deployments that we've done to date in terms of picking of identifying pick and drop locations within within the horizontal applications. So we obviously add a vertical location onto the at the conveyor location, and so that just becomes another part of our standard deployment, and then we can pick and place flexibly on and off those conveyors and wrapping stations, etc., and then operate across the balance of the operation.
Great. And I know that we chatted a bit about integration with legacy systems and WMS systems. Can you tell us a little bit about Pivotal? Because that's really the magic here behind the scenes.
Absolutely, yeah. So Pivotal really has three components to it. So the automation of the individual platform and the navigation of that system. So that's common across all of our platforms, which allows them to operate together. It's the same deployment, it's the same map, it's the same support system. We then have the orchestration component of Pivotal, which again will kind of sit at a level above that fleet, and we'll be able to take more of a kind of a God's eye view of the operation as a whole. So pulls tasks in bulk from your WMS and allocates them across the available fleet. And we'll also dynamically reallocate them as we encounter challenges or changes in terms of the operation or emergency orders or any of those things. So we can take that information in real time and readjust where tasks have been allocated across that fleet. And then we have the learning component of it, where we see where units are working well, where we're having challenges, if we're having any bottlenecks, and that can feed into updates and changes and continuous improvement. So we can look at any changes that we need to make to the map. We can make recommendations to workflow adjustments on the customer side, and equally we can take that information back to our product development team, where we look at new features or improvements and push them out to our units in the field. So the way we've designed the system is really to learn and adapt to both your environment and then to, from a more macro level. So we're looking at this as kind of the bedrock of your automation plans, both for now and for future changes. So be it natural growth that you have, seasonal peaks, changes in operation, that the system is designed with flexibility in mind, understanding that change is essentially change is the only constant, to use a somewhat trite phrase, but we see that time and time again within any of our deployments. So we want to make sure that we're not providing automation solutions that work in a very singular way for right now, because this is the challenge that you currently face. And so that system then has really shown kind of ongoing value and resilience to some of those changes that we see in our customer sites. And that's been a real game changer for us and for many of our customers as they're looking at their automation strategies.
Right, as Daniel and John wrapped up with, it's the system, right? We're looking at workflow optimization.
Indeed.
Okay, well, we are just about up on time here. If you're looking for additional materials, feel free to head over to vecnarobotics.com. You'll see a drop-down called Autonomous Vehicles, and you can just click on the Counterbalanced Fork Truck link there. You'll see a number of specs and some downloads available, as well as a video. And I just want to say thank you to David, my co-host here. Thanks to Daniel and John, who are with us in the showroom, and thanks to everybody who logged on and all of your wonderful questions. If we did not get to them today, then someone from the team will be following up with you shortly. And feel free to always reach out to us. You can reach us by going to vecnarobotics.com, head over to the Contact Us form, and we are monitoring that every day, all day. So feel free to reach out, and thank you again.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Amanda, for hosting.
Of course, my pleasure.